We go cruising for all kinds of reasons. Do we ever want to go back to someplace we've been before? Hi, I'm Nika Waters and welcome to the Boat Galley Podcast. Today, I'm sharing some of our favorite cruising memories, and what I have in my head is a picture of each place as I talk about it. Today's episode of the Boat Galley Podcast is sponsored by Shambhala Sailing Adventures, offering customized learning charters in the Exumas, Bahamas. Sailor like you owner with coaching from Captain Suki Cannon. Contact her at captainsuki@gmail.com. That's CAPTAINSUKY@gmail. Mention this podcast for 10% off. We've been fortunate enough to have already taken 2 long cruises on board Calypso. If you've been listening to the podcast, you've heard me talk about when we were first married, we cruised for 3 years on the boat that we bought right after we graduated from college, and it's still the same boat that we have today. We left from Galveston, Texas, and went all the way around the Gulf Coast of the U.S., around Florida, over to the Bahamas and down, all the way down the Eastern Caribbean to Trinidad, over to Venezuela and Bonaire before we came back up and then helped friends cross the Atlantic on their boat. Our second cruise was a 10-month odyssey with the kids in which we took them from Virginia to the Dominican Republic and back. And sometimes it feels like we never ever possibly could have done those trips. And then you pull out the pictures and you remember that, yeah, it's not just dreaming, it's not just in your memory, but they actually did happen. When I was going through pictures one day, one dark, dank, cold, wet, snowy day in the middle of winter, here are 3 pictures that I'm going to try and share with you with words. If you want to see them, you can go to my blog post. It's linked in the show notes, and I did show you some of the pictures. These are pictures from our very first cruise, so the picture quality is a little bit fuzzy. These were ones that we took when we had a real camera and real film and sent it off to be developed, and the pictures that are on the blog I took with my phone and then uploaded. So they're not particularly fantastic, but they definitely evoke memories for us. Fort Jefferson in the Dry Tortugas in Florida. It's about 90 miles west of Key West, and it was built as a part of the coastal defense system of the United States right before the Civil War. It's a fort built of endless amounts of brick. And they spent lots and lots and lots of millions of dollars, even back in the 1800s, to build this fort. Though they spent tons and tons of money on it, there was never actually a shot fired. Instead, it became a military prison and was used to house prisoners there were prisoners, Southern prisoners held by the North, and they were held at this prison. The most famous prisoner who was held in the Dry Tortugas was Dr. Samuel Mudd, who was the doctor who set John Wilkes Booth, the guy who shot Lincoln. Dr. Mudd set John Wilkes Booth's leg after John Wilkes Booth shot Lincoln and then jumped out of the theater, fell down and broke his leg, and then he had to have his leg set by this poor unsuspecting doctor who had no idea what this guy had just done. He was just trying to do his duty as a doctor and take care of somebody. Anyway, for all those efforts, Dr. Mudd was sent to the prison at Fort Jefferson. The malaria problem at the fort was tremendously horrible. And Dr. Mudd actually was pardoned after he worked tirelessly to combat malaria at the fort. It's a really cool piece of history. Pretty amazing place to wander around and to see what's there. It's incredible because when it was built, they thought that they were building it on solid rock. They were actually building it on sand, and the whole thing is sinking as time goes on. So not exactly the best engineering, but it's incredible that it's there. National Geographic has done at least one post on it, at least one article on it, and it's worth reading about. And if you can ever get a chance to get there, it's totally amazing. We've actually been here twice by sailboat, once on a borrowed Pearson 30 that we borrowed from my uncle, and our senior year spring break, we borrowed this boat and left from Fort Myers to sail down to the Dry Tortugas. We misjudged a lighthouse. It's really hard to tell how tall a lighthouse is from a mile away. just a warning, and I can give you more information if you want to know that, but we almost missed the island group entirely. And then the first year that we were out on Calypso on our first cruise, we stopped there. After stopping in Fort Myers for Thanksgiving, we actually went down to the Dry Tortugas to spend a few days. GPS absolutely makes life a lot easier. We did not almost miss the island group that time. It's 90 miles west of Key West. It's accessible only via boat or by a private plane. It is part of the national park system. There are no facilities there. Anything you bring in, you have to take out. There is no water available. You can't fish, but the snorkeling is incredible and the bird watching is second to none. We absolutely can't wait to go back. Next up on my blog, and this wonderful picture, I'm going to try and do an image description. In the foreground is our mast, which is a wooden mast with our wooden hatch covers uncovered. The sails are out. You can see that we're sailing away from the destination that's in the background. So I'm looking from the bow of the boat back. And in the distance is the Pitons, which is an iconic photo, an iconic peak in St. Lucia in the Caribbean. And as I look at this picture, all I can remember is this incredible sense of accomplishment. When you're sailing from the Bahamas to the Caribbean, you're pretty much sailing upwind all the time. And once you turn the corner in St. Martin, things start to get a little bit easier sailing-wise. The year that we headed east along the coast of Puerto Rico and along the coast of the Dominican Republic was a horrible year for trade winds not laying down. Normally the trade winds blow kind of 10 to 15 out of the east, and at night they're supposed to die down to like 5 to 10. Well, the year that we were going along, they didn't lie down, but much below 15 even at night. And with our little 10 horsepower motor trying to push our 14,000 pound boat, we didn't move very fast, and we were exhausted by the time we actually got to the east end of Puerto Rico. And then we had to finish going around and go down and cross and come around and into St. Martin. And then as soon as we started heading down island, the sailing just got better and better and better and better and easier and more comfortable, certainly not beating into it anymore. And so what this photo evokes for me is that sense of accomplishment. We had gotten so far. And in this picture, you can see the peak in the background. And I know for us in our early 20s doing this cruise, it felt a little bit as special as sailing past the Statue of Liberty, even though, no, we haven't done that yet. And that is on my list of things that I would like for us to do. We'll figure out if we can make that happen or not. I don't remember a whole lot else about St. Lucia. When I look at this picture, I can think of an incredible sail with a beautiful backdrop and just feeling like we had arrived. We did it. Did we really? Wow. Kind of cool that you have a photo that can make you think of that thing. And the last photo that I want to talk about today is possibly the fuzziest of them all. And if I give you an image description, it's a shot of our boat taken from the stern. So you can see the name of the boat. It says Calypso. You can see the American flag flying off the backstay. You can see the Bahamian flag flying off the starboard spreader. You can see the barbecue off of the port quarter. And it looks like we're anchored in this beautiful river of blue with a white sand drop off to our port. And then you can see green grass behind it. It's a blue sky with a couple of puffy white clouds. This is a photo that we took at a place called Joe's Sound on Long Island in the Bahamas. And this particular day, 5 of us had sailed in tandem from Georgetown. I don't remember exactly where we were going. Maybe we were actually going to Joe's Sound. Mahalo and Hinga, which was another Bristol Channel cutter, Metanoia, Timeless, and Calypso raced. Anytime a couple sailboats are going the same direction, they're racing. Isn't that how it goes? In the lee of this island, we were towing fishing lines, talking to each other on the radio about sundowners. We all needed water, and this island was rumored to have a cistern that we could pull from as long as we kept it nice and clean and didn't kind of take it all. And the entrance to Joe's Sound is really tiny and a little bit dicey. And so we all stopped outside of the entrance and we went in via dinghy to sound it out, and said, okay, yep, we can get in there. And one by one, we entered this really narrow channel. And the charts had shown, and what we understood of it was that it was kind of a tidal river almost. And so we put 2 anchors out at about 180 degrees. So one off the bow up one direction and one off the bow the other direction, so that we could spin, but we wouldn't actually swing around. The sandbars along the edges were supposed to dry at low tide. It was high tide when we went in. And in the morning, when Jeremy got up to take our dog for a walk, he came back really, really quickly and said, "You got to get in to the dinghy. You have to come see this." And our little 2-horsepower motor putted us up to the farthest point upstream of the river, like Anchorage. And then we killed the engine. And as we drifted back to the boat, we looked down into the water, and it was so clear that we could see sand dollars, individual sand dollars on the bottom of the 14-foot deep channel. I swear, a lot of times in the Bahamas, you look down and you can't believe that it's as deep as it is, because the water's so clear and it looks just like you can pick things up off the bottom. And then the ultimate treat came spotted eagle rays. They were beating their way up against the current. It looked totally like they were flying in the clear water, and there must have been 20 of them. It was unbelievable. And I just remember sitting in the dinghy with the dog and my husband, and we were just grinning at each other. We're in this totally gorgeous anchorage with our friends, and here are these spotted eagle rays in this clear, clear, clear water. We didn't make it back to Joe's Sound when we went cruising with the kids. Rumor had it was that the entrance was chained off, the cisterns had been destroyed, and the new owners didn't want anyone going ashore. I hear in talking to a couple of my friends that actually that's true with a lot of places in the Exumas that we remember with such fondness. But maybe we didn't make it to Joe's Sound because we didn't really want to destroy our perfect memory of a place that was so perfect. I wonder, are the rays still flying there? What memories can we create together? I can't wait to see you out there. Thanks so much for listening to the Boat Galley podcast. We appreciate you tuning in twice a week, every week, as we share our advice and tips and answer any questions that you have about the cruising lifestyle. Please feel free to drop us a line. We're always happy to hear from our listeners. Have a great week.